हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
Haribo.
Okay, so we are starting again with our Gita Yagya today, and today we are going to discuss the ultimate verse of the Gita, which is like the conclusion of the Gita. And I think this is one of the most difficult verses to give class on, but I'll just try my best.
Well, we have the right person.
Seek your blessings for this. I was thinking it is 67, but Vallabhi Govi Mataji reminded me it's not 67 that I have to speak on, it's 66. Somehow I thought I did attend the class last time, and I believe she talked about this verse, and I thought she already covered it. So, okay. So this is the one of the most important verses.
We did cover this because this is my favorite verse. I would have known.
So I was a little hesitant in saying that this is one of the most important verses of Gita.
It is one of the most important. This is
Because
my favorite verse too.
I know, because I know Mataji will say this is actually the most important. You have been saying all other verses to be most important. So
Finally, I agree with you. I agree with you even on the others.
okay, all right. So I'll request everybody to recite this verse today. So I know some people are a little hesitant, but this is, I believe everybody is very pally with this verse. Everybody would have spoken this verse, so there won't be any problems reciting this verse. So you can repeat after me. Sarv dharman parityajya
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
mamekam sharanam vraja
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
aham tvam sarva papebhyo
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षस्यामि मा शुचः।
मोक्ष्यिष्यामि मा शुचः।
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
अहं त्वं सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
अहं त्वं सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयासि मा शुचः।
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
मामेकं शरणं व्रज।
अहं त्वं सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयामि मा शुचः।
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
माम् एकं शरणं व्रज
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
अहं त्वं सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
मामेकं शरणं व्रज
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः
मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. Anyone else? This is our time to surrender to Krishna. If anyone has not yet surrendered, this is the time. Please recite this verse and surrender. Okay, all right. Let's recite the synonyms. Sarv Dharman,
Sarvadharman.
all varieties of religion.
All
varieties of
religion.
Parityajya,
Parityajya.
abandoning.
abandoning
Mam,
Mam.
unto me.
unto me
Unto me.
Ekam,
Ekam.
only.
Only.
Sharanam,
Sharanam.
Sharanam.
for surrender.
for
For
surrender.
surrender.
Vraja,
Vraja.
Vraja.
go.
Go.
Aham,
Aham.
Aham.
I.
I
I.
Tvam,
Tvam
Tvam.
you.
you
You.
Sarva,
Sarva
all.
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 Papebhyah,
Papebhyah.
from sinful reactions.
From
From
sinful
sinful
reactions.
Reactions.
Mokshashyami,
Mokshashyami
Mokshashyami.
will deliver.
will
Will
deliver.
deliver.
Ma,
Ma
Ma.
do not.
do
Do
not
Do not.
Shuchaha,
Shucha
Shucha.
worry.
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 Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Purport. The Lord has described various kinds of knowledge and processes of religion, knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, knowledge of the Super Soul, knowledge of the different types of orders and statuses of social life, knowledge of the renounced order of life, knowledge of non-attachment, sense and mind control, meditation, etc. He has described in so many ways different types of religion. Now, in summarizing Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that Arjuna should give up all the processes that have been explained to him. He should simply surrender to Krishna. That surrender will save him from all kinds of sinful reactions, for the Lord personally promises to protect him. In the 7th chapter, it was said that only one who has become free from all sinful reactions can take to the worship of Lord Krishna. Thus, one may think that unless he is free from all sinful reactions, he cannot take to the surrendering process. To such doubts, it is here said that even if one is not free from all sinful reactions, simply by the process of surrendering to Sri Krishna, he is automatically freed. There is no need of strenuous effort to free oneself from sinful reactions. One should unhesitatingly accept Krishna as the supreme savior of all living entities. With faith and love, one should surrender into him. The process of surrender to Krishna is described in the Hari Bhakti Vilas 11.676. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam rakshashyati vishwasho goptratve varnam tatha atmanikshepakarpanye shadvidha sharanagatihi. According to the devotional processes, one should simply accept such religious principles that will lead ultimately to the devotional service of the Lord. One may perform a particular occupation duty according to his position in the social order. But if by executing his duty, one does not come to the point of Krishna consciousness, all his activities are in vain. Anything that does not lead to the perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness should be avoided. One should be confident that in all circumstances, Krishna will protect him from all difficulties. There is no need of thinking how one should keep the body and soul together. Krishna will see to that. One should always think himself helpless and should consider Krishna the only basis for his progress in life. As soon as one seriously engages himself in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, at once he becomes freed from all contamination of material nature. There are different processes of religion and purificatory processes by cultivation of knowledge, meditation in the mystic yoga system, etc. But one who surrenders unto Krishna does not have to execute so many methods. That simple surrender unto Krishna will save him from unnecessarily wasting time. One can thus make all progress at once and be freed from all sinful reactions. One should be attracted by the beautiful vision of Krishna. His name is Krishna because he is all attractive. One who becomes attracted by the beautiful, all-powerful, omnipotent vision of Krishna is fortunate. There are different kinds of transcendentalists. Some of them are attached to the impersonal Brahman vision. Some of them are attracted by the supersoul feature, etc. But one who is attracted to the personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and above all, one who is attracted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna himself, is the most perfect transcendentalist. In other words, devotional service to Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is the essence of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics, and devotees are all called transcendentalists. But one who is a pure devotee is the best of all. The particular words used here, ma shuchaha, don't fear, don't hesitate, don't worry, are very significant. One may be perplexed as to how one can give up all kinds of religious forms and simply surrender into Krishna, but such worry is useless. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine. Read the translation one more time, although it's not necessary. I know everybody knows this by heart, but still. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So we come to the most important verse of the Gita. Prabhupada also says that in the purport that this is the essence of all the Gita. So actually everybody has their own ideas of what Bhagavad Gita says, and we might all have heard about the different ideas that people have. Even I had a different idea about Gita before I came to ISKCON, before I actually read Gita, because we generally hear Gita from so many different sources. One day I remember my, I think 2 weeks back, I was actually reading Gita or doing something in Gita, and my daughter came to me and she wanted to play with me and she was trying to engage me. And I told her that give me some time, I'm reading Gita, and then I will come and play with you. So then she says, I know what Krishna says in the Gita. So I asked her, what does Krishna say in the Gita? So she says, if you don't turn turtle on your head, then you are crazy. That's what she said. So actually that is the case with most of the people. I went to Sundar Gopinath Prabhu. Actually, he had arranged like a program at one of the local Hindu temples here. And he asked me to actually give a short talk on Bhagavad Gita. So I went there and there were quite a few people over there, actually 25, 30 people. And there were some school going kids. So one of the girls, I believe she was in high school, and her father was trying to get her to sit and hear about Gita, but she was very reluctant. So then I asked her, why are you so reluctant? So she said, I know what Gita is. So I said, okay, tell me what is Gita then? What does Krishna say in the Gita? So she says, Krishna just brainwashes Arjuna into fighting the war. That was her idea of Bhagavad Gita. And actually, people do say that purpose of the Gita is to incite a war. But Acharya has explained that the primary purpose of Gita is, of Krishna speaking the Gita is not to make Arjuna fight a war. Primary purpose, Acharya has explained that it is to glorify Bhakti Yoga. So it is not a book of violence as such. Prabhupada also faced this problem many times when Prabhupada was, he came to US at that time. Some of you might know there was this Vietnam War going on. and people are very much against, violent warfare, any kind of violence, and especially violent warfare. So the idea that God is asking somebody to fight a war, this is the last thing that people wanted to hear, But what happens here is, in this case, um, fighting the war coincides with bhakti yoga here, because it is Krishna's will that Arjuna fights. So it is one of the, it is actually a coincidence that, uh, Arjuna should fight this war, and we'll discuss this more in detail. But just let me remind you a little bit what has happened so far. So this 66 can be understood if we understand 60. So 64, 65, I know Mataji covered last time, but 64, 65, 66, it's like a series of 3 verses. But just before that, 64, 65, and 66, in the word 63, it's a very important verse, where Krishna had said, Iti te jnanam akyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimrashyet dashashena yathechasi tatha kuru. So Krishna had said Vimrashet, he said deliberate deeply, Vimrashet, Acharya has explained, it means deep contemplation, contemplate on this very deeply. And then Ashe Shena, for as long as you want, take as much time as you want, contemplate on this. And then Krishna says, Yathechasi tatha kuru, basically do what you want to do, So this indicates this line where Krishna says that you do what you want to do. After I have already given you this knowledge, I have spoken you what was necessary for me to tell you. But now it's up to you, Arjuna. You have to take it up. Either you take it or reject it, whatever you want to do. So actually, this verse, can everybody go on mute, please? I'm like hearing an echo. Thank you. So this verse indicates that, all souls have actually free will. Sometimes people say that, it is actually our destiny, that if it is in the will of destiny, then we will be able to do it. If it is not in the will of the destiny, then we won't be able to do something. But actually that is not true. So Acharya has explained that there are informative verses in the Gita, and there are some instructive verses of the Gita. So there are certain verses where Krishna says, you do this, like Man Mana Bhav Mad Bhakta is also an instructive verse where Krishna is saying that you should do like this. And there are certain verses where Krishna is talking about his supreme position, like Mayata Tamidam Sarvam, and those are just informative. Okay, it's very important for us to know, but it's not that we have to do something about it. We have to know, and then we have to. Basically, it is more meant for our inner transformation. It's not like an active thing that we have to do. So instructive verses are there in the Gita, and the fact that there are instructive verses, if there was no free will, then there was no need for Krishna to speak the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna would have simply laughed that, Arjuna, you are going to fight this war because you don't have any free will. But actually Krishna takes the time, and then he speaks the whole Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna to basically convince him that this is how you have to do it, this is how you have to act. So actually Bhagavad Gita is a book of choices. So Krishna tells Arjuna that these are the different choices you have, and these are the consequence of each choice. So if you make this choice, this will be the consequence. If you make this choice, this will be the consequence. So, and then Krishna, after speaking the whole Gita, he tells him that, okay, now you want, whatever you want to do, you do that. Acharya has explained that this Bhagavad Gita is actually a conversation at 3 levels. At the first level, we know that it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. At the second level, we know that it's a conversation between Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya. But at the third level, which is at a more deeper level, Acharya has explained that this is a conversation between the soul and the super soul. How is it that, so we know that we have heard this chariot body metaphor, that this body is like a chariot, and we as souls are like the passenger in the chariot. And super soul, either we can ourselves becomes the charioteer, or we can make the super soul as our charioteer. So Krishna is the super soul. Krishna had said that many times. And even when we are in the conditioned state, Krishna had said, Sarvasya chaham ridasanna vishto mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Now I am situated in the hearts of every living entity, and mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam. From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So either way, Krishna is there in the heart, and from him the knowledge is coming. So actually Jayadvaita Maharaj says that Krishna It's a very funny thing that I found. He says Krishna is playing his flute, and so we have heard about Venu Gita. Venu Gita is basically when Krishna is inviting the pure devotees, the gopis, to come and participate in his pastimes. So Krishna is playing his flute and he is inviting the conditioned souls to come and participate in his pastimes. But the souls, they are asking Krishna, that Krishna, you come here and you help me, assist me here in my pastime. So that is the position of the conditioned souls. They don't really understand. So, and then he also explained Asheshena means, so Asheshana means that you can take as much time as you want, but he, Maharaj explains it a little sarcastically. He says, Asheshana means, for so many lifetimes you have been doing the same thing, but at least now you should contemplate and just contemplate on this deeply. At least now come back to me, don't take any further. Just come back to me now at least. So what's happening is Krishna is not forcing anyone. He's not giving a dogma that, we have certain religions where, they say that, okay, if you don't accept this book, if you don't accept this person as your savior, then you are going to go to hell forever. There is no concept of, reincarnation or anything like that. This is the only chance you have. And if you don't accept this person, if you don't accept this book, then you are going to go to hell forever. So actually that is not what Krishna is saying here. So the living entity has to make his own choice. He has to make his own decision. It's not that the living entity is going to go to hell forever if he doesn't accept what Krishna is. It's not saying that at all. He's not saying to Arjuna that I'm going to send you to hell and make you burn there forever in the fires of whatever, fires of hell. So, he's asking us to make the choice. I was reading a pastime that was written by Giriraj Maharaj in watering the seed. Sometimes we get this question that, sometimes we see that even the pure devotees, not pure devotees, but like advanced devotees who have we at least at our level, we can see that they are very, very surrendered. But we do see that there are sometimes they also face some problems. Sometimes, in fact, sometimes some very elevated devotees also fall down. So I was reading a pastime that was shared by Giriraj Maharaj in watering the seed. So he writes that actually Prabhupada used to choose some GBC members, and then he writes that, it happened that once one of the GBC members had some problems and then he left the movement. And then he said that happened the second time, then it happened the third time. And then he thought that, Prabhupada is a pure devotee. Whatever he does is perfect. If he is choosing someone, that person should not fall down, because it is Prabhupada has chosen him, and Prabhupada knows everything very well. He's the perfect person. So, but after so many times and when it happened, so he couldn't, he went to Prabhupada and directly asked this question, that how is it that when you are choosing a person to become a GVC, then how is it that he is going out of the movement? So then Prabhupada explained to him that actually every soul has free will. It's not that if I am choosing someone, the soul can any time misuse that free will and he can go away. So the spiritual master gives some responsibility to a person who does very good service. So he sees that, okay, this person has a devotional attitude, he has a service attitude, let me give him more service, let me take him more closer to Krishna. But the soul always has that free will. From any position, any place, the person, that soul can anytime go away from Krishna. We also have the example of in the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself, we have the example of Advaita Acharya's son. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions that Advaita Acharya's son became a Mayavadi. That was such a shocking thing that I have read. But so he explains that in the Mayavadi, in the sense that after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed, so he came up with the idea that, actually that Advaita Acharya, because Advaita Acharya instructed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to descend, and on so everybody knew that Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu. So he writes that actually so he thought that Advaita Acharya is a bigger god than Krishna, than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we know that actually there is no difference between Mahavishnu and Krishna, but Krishna is the source. But he thought that because Advaita Acharya instructed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually he prayed for the Supreme Lord to descend, and then after that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended. So he thought that actually Advaitacharya is a bigger god than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, and many of the Vaishnavas and Advaitacharya himself got offended by what he was telling to everyone. So any soul can fall down anytime. It's, it is not that, at a certain level after. So that also kinds of tells us that, we could have fallen down from this. We could have been with Krishna at one time, and we could have fallen down from that position. So we know that Bible, it is said it is a book of commandments. We know that it is the 10 commandments are very famous. But Bhagavad Gita is not a book of commandments. As I explained, it is a book of choices, choices and consequences. So after that, Krishna had talked about 18.64. Excuse me. So 18.64, Krishna had said, Sarva guhya tamam bhuyah shrinu me paramam vachah ishtosi me dhradamiti tato vakshyami te hitam. Excuse me. So, excuse me. So, Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuyaha. So, he says Sarva Guhyatam. This is the most confidential, and hear this again, Bhuyaha. So, actually, hear this again from me. So, Krishna has already actually spoken this knowledge to Arjuna. So, in the 9.1, Krishna had said, if you remember the verse that was 9.1 was Idam tu te Guhyatamam Pravakshyami Anusuyave. So Krishna had said, I am speaking the most confidential knowledge to you. And then actually the conclusion of the 9th chapter was Man mana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. That you become my devotee and offer your obeisances unto me. Similarly, Krishna had said in 10.1, Bhuya eva mahabaho shrunu me paramam vachaha. This is my supreme instruction. And that series ended with the Chaturshloki Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna had said, Aham sarvasya prabhamattaha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So there also he had explained that, madchitta madgata prana bodhayantaha parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. The activities of a pure devotee he had explained. So both the places so in the 9th chapter Krishna had explained, and in the 10th chapter Krishna had explained. But here he is saying that I am speaking this again to you. Sometimes it happens that after you have a long conversation, the important point may get lost. So just to make sure that Arjuna had caught that important point, he says, I am speaking this to you again. Bhuyaha. Hear it again, So, and then he says, Ishto si me. So, Shrunu me paramam vachaha. Paramam is like my supreme instruction. Very, very clear that, this is Sarva Guhyatamam. This is the most confidential. And this is my supreme instruction. Sometimes people say that, these bhaktas, they unnecessarily say that, the Bhagavad Gita talks about bhakti. Bhagavad Gita talks about so many processes. It talks about jnana, it talks about dhyana, it talks about karma. So how could you say that Bhagavad Gita talks about bhakti only? So here is the answer actually. Krishna does talk about a lot of things. So what he does is he builds his arguments. So he does talk about different processes, and then he takes us to the conclusion. So he says, now this is my supreme instruction. Please hear this carefully. And then he says, Ishto sime dridhamiti. Now, Ishto sime means Ishta is a very, very intimate word. You are very dear to me. And Dridhamiti says, Dridha means determination. So Acharya has explained that, Krishna is determined to love us. And we as conditioned souls, we are determined to forget Krishna. So Dridhamiti is a very strong word Krishna is speaking. And then he says, Tato vakshyami te hitam. I am speaking this to you for your benefit, Arjuna. Hear this very carefully. It is for your benefit. So after speaking this very important verse, then he says, Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evashyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. So actually he says, Man mana means always think about me. Bhav mad bhakto means become my devotee. Madhyaji means offer everything, all your possessions to me. Mam namaskuru means offer your whole existence to me. And mam evashyasi, you will come back to me. Satyam te, I am speaking the truth, O Arjuna. Satyam te, the Supreme Lord is saying that I am speaking the truth. Even if it is not truth, just because Krishna is speaking, it will become truth. If Krishna says in the night time that actually it's morning, the sun will immediately rise, just because it is come out of the mouth of Krishna. So he says, I am speaking the truth. And he says, Pratijane. So he says, I declare it, Pratijane. And then he says, Priyosi me, because I love you so much, O Arjuna. And therefore I'm saying this to you. So it's a very intimate verse. And this verse is coming for the second time. I think Vallavi Gopinath Mataji also explained this. This has come in 9.34. And Chakravarti Pad says that 9.34 is the essence of Gita. And this same verse is repeated again here. The only difference is the last line is different. Satyam te pratijane priyosime is really different. So Jiva Goswami explains the difference between 9.34 and 18.65. So he says that 9.34 talks about the devotee's love for Krishna. You know, there it was Atmana Mat Parayana. Atmana means with all their existence, they very wholeheartedly they are devoted to me. So there Krishna was explaining how much the devotees love Krishna. But here Krishna is talking about his own love for his devotees. You know, he says, Mam evashyasi, I am speaking the truth, and pratijane priyosi me. I love you so much. You know, you're so dear to me that you will definitely come to me if you do this. And then comes the final concluding verse, which is what we are discussing. Actually, before that, I also wanted to mention about one more thing which Chakravarti Pad explains. So actually, Chakravarti Pad commentary about Bhagavad Gita is a very, I would say, Rasik commentary. So what he does is he tries to enter into the minds of Krishna and Arjuna, and then he is giving a little more inner meaning of what. So basically, he explains what Arjuna and Krishna are thinking. And sometimes he talks in a little sarcastic way. So here he explains that actually when Krishna speaks this verse, you know, Arjuna is thinking that, you know, he says, Krishna, you are a Mathuravasi, you know, a Mathuravasi in the sense that Mathuravasis are known to not keep their words. So Vasudev, we know that he also writes about the example of Vasudev. So Vasudev had promised Kamsa that I'll bring all the sons to you, but he didn't keep his promise. So he says that, how could I believe you? You are a Mathuravasi. So then, and Krishna is telling Arjuna when he says Pratijane Priyosime. So Krishna is saying that actually, you know, that is for outer, you know, other people. For my own family members, whatever we speak, we always keep our words. So that is how Chakravarti Pad explains. And then if we really understand, here manmana means offering our mind to Krishna, and mad bhakto, bhav mad bhakto, bhakti means offering all our emotions of our heart to Krishna. So basically offering our heart to Krishna. So that is mind and heart. And then Madhyaji refers to offering our positions to Krishna, and Mam Namaskuru. Namaskuru means, if we really understand the meaning of the word Nama, Nama means na ma means not me, you. So basically I'm offering all my existence to you. Whatever you want to do, that's what I'm going to do for you. So Nama is actually not me, it's you. So and after speaking this, Krishna speaks about surrendering to Krishna. So this surrender is more in terms of surrendering in bhakti, in devotion. It's not through any other process. So Sar Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshashyami Ma Shuchaha. So this is the word. Sometimes people say that, okay, there could be many ways to surrender. So actually here, sometimes this people say that Krishna speaks a lot of contradicting things in the Bhagavad Gita. So there is a society of smart Brahmanas. They say that actually what they do is they change this verse. So instead of Sarv Dharman Parityajya, they make it Sarv Adharman Parityajya. So their idea is that Krishna had said in the fourth chapter that I come to establish dharma. You know that what is that verse? I'm missing the verse. 4. The famous verse.
Yada yada hi dharmasya.
Yeah, yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya datmanam sajamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanathaaya. So I come to establish dharma. So if Krishna says that I come to establish dharma, then how could he ask us to give up dharma? So actually here, dharma doesn't mean that we give up our dharma and become adharmic. That is not what is the meaning here. We have different dharmas actually. We have the aparadharma and we have the paradharma. Aparadharma refers to the dharma that is for the body, and paradharma refers to the supreme, the spiritual dharma, the dharma which is of the soul. So if you remember the contention that Arjuna had, it was like a dharma sankat for Arjuna. It was a clash between two dharmas. It is more like an ethical decision that Arjuna has to make. So that the ultimate problem that Arjuna had was that he has a kula dharma and he has a jati dharma. Kula dharma means he has a family responsibility, and jati dharma means he is a kshatriya. So he was confused that which dharma should I do? Should I do the duty for my family, or should I do the duty as for my jati, which is the kshatriya? So that was his actually idea. So here when Krishna says that you give up all dharma, so he's saying that give up all your bodily dharma. So actually both kul dharma and jati dharma is for the body. So he says that you actually take up that dharma that enables you to surrender to me, paradharma, which is, so actually the Sanskrit words are multivalent, means they have multiple meanings. So dharma word also has many different meanings. So Prabhupada at one place he explains dharyati iti dharma, one that sustains us, that is dharma. One that is our innate nature, our innate nature that cannot be changed, that is dharma. So if dharma is our innate nature, then how could we give up dharma? So actually here dharma doesn't refer to that innate nature. Innate nature means, Prabhupada explains that the dharma of sugar is to be sweet, the dharma of water is to make things wet. So sugar cannot give up its sweetness, water cannot give up its wetness, and then similarly he explains that the dharma of the soul is to love, is to service, to do serve, basically that is the dharma of the soul. So here dharma doesn't mean that. Here dharma means our external dharma. Mostly the dharma that is given, the Vedic dharma. There are so many things that are mentioned in the Vedic rituals, that you do this, you don't do this, this is your dharma for this person, this is your dharma for that person. So this refers to that external dharma, the aparadharma. So Krishna is saying that you give up all aparadharma and take up paradharma, just surrender into me. And that surrender has to be through devotional service. So nowadays you might have heard that people say that I am spiritual but I am not religious. No, they call it SBNR, spiritual but not religious. So Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, some of you might know, he wrote an article. There he explains that one time he was with Srila Prabhupada on an airport, and when he was there, so Prabhupada was very famous at that time. So there was a journalist. So he recognized Srila Prabhupada, that he is that Swamiji who is becoming very famous, and Prabhupada was giving many different interviews on different TV channels also. So he came running to Srila Prabhupada. He just started walking away. So he called out, Swamiji, please wait. So Prabhupada just waited for him, and then he came, and then he took out a mic and he put it in front of Prabhupada. And then he asked Srila Prabhupada that, Swamiji, what is the difference between your philosophy and Buddhism? So he had some thoughts in his mind that I'm going to do a big story about this religion and I'll include Srila Prabhupada in my story. But Prabhupada has had a different idea. So Prabhupada said that, that we have nothing to do with Buddhism, Hinduism, thisism or thatism. When Prabhupada said that, he was taken aback. So he said, we are simply teaching the truth. And then he was further shocked when Prabhupada said that. So Prabhupada looked straight into his eyes and said, if you are truthful, you will accept this. So this is sometimes there are people, they ask some questions which are very elevated, but they are not that much elevated to understand the answer. So you have to actually elevate them first so that they can understand the answer. So one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, so we know that we have this book, Perfect Question, Perfect Answers. But one of Srila Prabhupada's disciple, he also compiled another book which is called Foolish Questions, Perfect Answers. So there's a list of at least 10 to 12 questions in that, very like funny questions. Prabhupada gives multiple very different perfect answers to those questions. So this is one of the questions also in that book. That is what Ravindra Swarup Prabhu mentions in his article. So actually, we have to understand that all religions are basically, the purpose of any religion is to basically help the practitioner to develop love of God. That is the very definition of the religion. You know, if a religion is not able to help the practitioner develop love for God, then that religion is useless. You know, sometimes the religion could be perfect, but the practitioner may not be able to follow everything that is there. But religion, sometimes nowadays it has become more like a dogma. But actually, religion is not dogma. Religion is meant to be spiritual. And if you see the teachings that are given in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, they are not sectarian in one sense. You know, they are universal teachings. So even the teachings that are given in the Bhagavad Gita, they are not sectarian. And how do we understand this? Now we have to look back in the Gita and understand who Krishna is. You know, he is the source of everything. He's not some sectarian Hindu god who is saying that, you know, and then, you know, there are certain religious books where it is mentioned that if someone doesn't accept this, you'd go and kill that person, kill the kafir wherever you see him. You know, that is one of the verses that is there in the Quran. So that kinds of sounds like a dogma. But here Krishna is not giving a dogma. He is giving the universal teaching. So Krishna is not just a sectarian Hindu god. He is the source of everything. And in that sense, when he says that, you know, that we have to give up all dharma and surrender to Krishna, that is like the ultimate teaching that is coming from, you know, from God himself. So Prabhupada very nicely, he quotes the Sharanagati prayers. So he says that, you know, we have to take up what is anukul for our bhakti, and we have to give up everything that is pratikul. Pratikul means which is not favorable. So take up everything that is favorable and give up everything that is not favorable. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so the Sharanagati prayers are also given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an extraordinary genius. So, you know, every acharya is special, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very deeply philosophical, and at the same time, he was very profoundly poetic. So he could bring philosophy in the form of poetry also. So it is explained that out of the 6 things that are mentioned, what is that verse? Shad Vidhas Sharanagati. There are 6 principles that are given. So out of the 6 principles, it is mentioned that the first 2 are activities. You know, the first activities are anukulasya sankalpaha. You know, you accept what is anukul, which is favorable for bhakti, and pratikulasya varsanam, reject which is what is unfavorable. So these 2 are activities that we have to do, and the remaining 4 are actually qualities which will develop when we are expert in these 2 activities, when we can decide, okay, what is favorable for my bhakti and what is not favorable for my bhakti. So then the other qualities will develop. So rakshashyati vishwaso, that Krishna will protect me. You know, that is, these are like qualities which will develop. So sometimes people think they have their own idea of surrender. You know, they think that, okay, surrender means, you know, for many people, surrender means to just raise the hands and surrender. You know, I surrender. It is, sometimes people say that, no, I'll not do anything because I have surrendered to Krishna. So actually, surrender is not passive. Sometimes surrender in the mostly in the mundane sense, surrender refers to, you know, a reluctant admission to defeat against a very powerful enemy. You know, we don't want to surrender, but this enemy has overpowered me, so we don't have any option left actually. So here the meaning of surrender is not that. Now here the meaning of surrender is very dynamic. You know, so every time, that every moment, the devotee has to evaluate, you know, what is favorable for me and what is not favorable for me. So I have to accept what is favorable and I have to reject everything that is unfavorable. So, and also at the same time, we have to do our activities that are needed. You know, doing our activities is actually a sign of surrender. So sometimes people come up with some stupid questions. You know, so I was hearing a lecture. This was in part of the Prerna Festival. Prerna Festival is very famous. This is basically, they arrange it for students. So when Prabhuji was giving lecture on this verse, so one of the students asked, that, okay, if I surrender to Krishna, then will I pass the exam if I don't study? So actually, this is like a stupid thing to ask. So even we see that, even though Arjuna had surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna had already told Arjuna that, that he said to Arjuna that nimitta matra bhava sabyasachi, that you just become an instrument in my hands. Now I've already killed these people, but still we see that Arjuna had to fight so hard. He was almost getting killed by Bhishma Dev. He was almost, when there was this Jayadratha incident had happened, he was almost overpowered. He was not able to reach in time to Jayadratha. But Arjuna had to struggle so much to win the war, even though Krishna had told him that you will win the war. So, it's not that Arjuna just sat quietly, okay, I just sit and relax in the chariot, Krishna, and you do everything, whatever needs to be done. So doing our activity is not that it is the sign of not surrender. It is actually a sign of surrender. Planning for how to get things done, doing the things that are necessary for us to do. But the result is up to Krishna. That is the part of surrender. Even if we get an unfavorable result, sometimes we do get unfavorable result. So we have to understand that the results are up to Krishna. So that is actually the sign of surrender. Doing our part and leaving the result in the hands of Krishna. So surrender doesn't mean that we just sit at home and relax and we don't do anything. That is not surrender. Surrender is actually dynamic. It is not passive, that okay, I surrendered 4 years back, I surrendered to Krishna, but so many things are still happening in my life. How do I understand that? That is not surrender. So Shivraj Maharaj, Shivram Swami Maharaj, he was recently diagnosed with COVID. Some of you might know. So he tells a very nice pastime. So he tells the pastime of Bhaktivedanta Manor. So Bhaktivedanta Manor, that there was a court case against Bhaktivedanta Manor because this is in a residential area. So people were not happy that it has kind of become like a temple. So they did a court case against Bhaktivedanta Manor. Their idea was that we should not allow this to become more like a religious place, and they were arguing that so many cars come in and out and creates a lot of trouble, a lot of disturbance for the people who are living in that society. So a court case was filed, and some of the devotees, they reached out to the Queen of England at that time for help. So when they approached the Queen of England, so they had to first go through the secretary of the Queen. So the secretary, they told him about Srila Prabhupada. So this secretary asked them, okay, I want to know more about your founder before I approach the Queen. So tell me more. So then they gave him this Prabhupada Lila Amrit book. So the whole set. So Shivram Swami explains that after some days, he came to them and then he told them that you don't realize how great your spiritual master was, how you don't even understand. So, and these people are thinking, we have dedicated our lives to Srila Prabhupada. How would we not understand how great Srila Prabhupada? We actually understand. So then he said, do you know why you don't understand? So they said, no, we don't know. So he said, because you are not old, you are still young. So we know that many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples were less than half of his age at that time. So he said that I know what old age is. I am 55 years old, and he said your Guru Maharaj, your spiritual master, was 69 years old, and at that time, at that age, even doing regular things, regular mundane things, becomes so difficult. And at that age, he did this. He spread this whole movement that basically tells that how great he was. So Shivram Swami writes in one of his offerings to Srila Prabhupada that now I am becoming old, and now I actually realize that how difficult it was, how difficult it is. The old age is so difficult. So Prabhupada was actually surrendered, but he was doing so many things for Krishna actually. So in one of the was explaining this on the lecture I was hearing, that Prabhupada's pace was so much that he used to go to even when he used to visit temples, different temples, he used to go to 10 to 20 different devotees' homes. Not devotees, but generally people would like to invite him because he was a sadhu. So generally the karmis, they would want to invite Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada used to put a condition that I'll come to your house if you become a life member, because we also needed some funds at that time to sustain our movement. So Prabhupada used to visit their houses, and his space was so much. It was mentioned that the devotees, they were not able, even though they were young, they were so young, less than half of his Srila Prabhupada's age. They actually made two groups. I'm going a little fast now because we don't have much time left. But they made two groups of devotees to go with Srila Prabhupada. The first group used to go from morning to afternoon, and the other group used to go from afternoon to evening. Because just one group, it was so difficult for them to keep up with Srila Prabhupada's pace. So Prabhupada was actually fast without being passionate, and we are passionate without being fast. So Prabhupada practically gave the last blood and last drop of his blood for preaching. But so that also tells us that surrender doesn't mean that we don't do anything. We have to do a lot of things for Krishna, and that is the sign of surrender. So I just conclude with one thing. Acharya explained that Bhagavad Gita is actually a call of love. So Venu Gita, as we were talking about earlier, Venu means it is like the flute of Krishna. Venu Gita means it is the song that Krishna had played on his flute to invite pure devotees to participate in his pastimes, to invite the gopis to participate in his pastimes. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita is also a call of love. But because, so Venu Gita is for pure devotees and Bhagavad Gita is for conditioned souls. So because it is for conditioned souls, Krishna has to give a lot of context. He has to explain his supreme position. He has to tell everybody that I am not an ordinary person. I am supreme. And then, so if we look at Bhagavad Gita, Krishna builds his argument. He slowly. At the end, he comes and he says, Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam. He doesn't say that at the beginning, because without establishing his position, without explaining the whole context, if he would have just said that you surrender to me, nobody would surrender to Krishna. Especially the conditioned souls. Even after explaining this, when Bhagavad Gita, when people read Bhagavad Gita, many of them still don't get it. They just pick some random things that Bhagavad Gita means you have to do your work, that's all, everything else will be taken care. And then they have this funny what is that philosophy, that everything that is happening is good, everything that will happen will be good, everything that happened in the past is good. What did you bring with you? What that you will take with you? You came empty handed, all that funny. None of the verse, actually, if you look at Bhagavad Gita, none of the verse in the Bhagavad Gita directly says this, that everything that is happening is good, everything that will happen in the future is good, everything that happened in the past is good. None of the Bhagavad Gita verses say that. But somehow they come up with this I don't know from where this philosophy came, that this is Bhagavad Gita's philosophy. Actually, that is not true. So Krishna has to give a lot of context, and then he has to ask the devotees to surrender, ask the conditioned souls to surrender. So Bhagavad Gita is also a call of love. It is because Krishna is so determined to love us. Dridhamiti, he says, Ishto sima dridhamiti. He's so determined to love us. So he's giving this knowledge to us. And at the end, he's asking us to surrender in loving devotional service to Krishna. So this surrender is, first of all, it is exclusive surrender only to Krishna. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. It's not that we have to surrender to Krishna also, and then Lord Shiva also, and Brahma also, and then Vishnu, Indra also, and Agni also. No, Mam Ekam, exclusive surrender. And then before that, Krishna had spoken Man Mana Bhav Mad Bhakto. So this surrender has the only process that we have to use is Bhakti Yoga. So no other process is necessary, and no other means is necessary. So the supreme goal is Krishna, and the supreme process is Bhakti Yoga. So once we understand this, it will become easy for us to surrender. So I'll stop here. I know I have exceeded the time. So are there any comments or questions, suggestions, improvements about what I spoke?
I have a question and a comment. So
Yes,
the
Mataji.
question is, what is this Venu Gita? Where is it spoken?
Venu Gita is given by one of the acharyas, Mataji. Let me share this with you. Let me find this.
Mhm.
But Venu refers to his flute.
That I
And
understand, yeah.
so when some of the acharyas explain that actually when Krishna, so in the Bhagavatam, this pastime is there, right? When Krishna had played his flute and all the gopis come. So some of the acharyas call that as Venu Gita, but there is also one Venu Gita which was given by one of the acharyas. Let me find this and I'll share it with you.
Mhm.
Yes, Mataji. What's your comment?
The comment was, you talk about dharma, sarva dharma, and people interpret it as adharma, which is completely wrong. I was in my 20s and I understood it to be dharmas because my grandmother used to tell me so many stories of pativrata dharma.
Yeah.
There were so many satis who were great tapasvis who were so much into pativrata dharma that because of their tapasvi, like a Sati Arundhati, Sati Anusaya, and I forget which one of those satis, even if their husbands were so fallen, they were like so dedicated to the husband, and they were such great tapasvis that they changed their husbands by their pativrata dharma. And there was one sati who her husband was cursed to like die in the morning, that she stopped the sun from rising. I mean, she had that much power, and then the Lord had to come down and say, the sun of course has to rise, and like gave her boon of like not changed her husband. So there are so many other dharmas, like you said, the kula dharma and jati dharma. So Krishna is saying that if you do not have to follow any of these other dharmas, yes, unconditional surrender to your husband and serving is good if he is serving Krishna, but if he is not serving Krishna,
Right.
you can do your duty, but you don't have to follow the pativrata dharma, so that's a dharma also. So Krishna is saying sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam praja, only to him exclusively. Don't follow all these other mini dharmas, that are there. So that, like you said, dharma has many meanings. So that is what Krishna means there, and not adharma, not sarva adharma parityajya. He's actually saying that various kinds of dharmas that are given in the scriptures, you can tyaja, or you can, give up, but to just surrender unto me, So that was my comment.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes. Actually, Acharya explained that we have to give up all dharma and take up that dharma which enables us to do mamekam sharanam vraja.
Right, devotional
So,
service, right.
Which enables us to take shelter of Krishna. So that is the
Shelter.
dharma that.
Yes, it doesn't mean that you have to give up your other duties, so to speak,
Right.
but ultimately you should do devotional service only to Krishna.
Exactly. Thank you, Mataji, for that comment. Any other comments, questions?
A question. You said, well, comment question, I'm not sure, that the Bhagavad Gita is for conditioned souls. So if I feel that I'm a liberated soul, I don't need to read Bhagavad Gita?
That is not true. Even liberated souls should read Bhagavad Gita. Actually, it is explained that these scriptures, especially Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, they are like so there is a verse that comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, nirgrantha. Nirgrantha means people who are so elevated, they are already liberated souls, but still they get attracted to these scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So these scriptures are so beautiful, so profound that the souls who are already liberated, they also should read these scriptures, and they are actually naturally attracted to these scriptures. Not that you have to tell them to read the scriptures. So that's just my answer, Prabhu. But you want to add anything?
So what did you mean by this Bhagavad Gita is for conditioned souls?
So
Did
what
you
I
mean
meant,
especially for the condition? So
yeah, basically Krishna. So
Answer the question, please. I asked the Ganapati.
Mataji is just trying to make the class vibrant.
I'm just saying, is it?
So what I meant, Prabhuji, was that, so actually, okay, let me explain this a little bit. So Prabhupada writes in, which I think it was Sri Shopnishad or in one of the books or the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam, that Mahabharata is for less intelligent people. So if Mahabharata is for less intelligent people, then Bhagavad Gita comes right in the Mahabharata, So Acharya explained that actually Mahabharata is for less intelligent people, but Bhagavad Gita is meant to catch their attention. So even the setting of Bhagavad Gita is such that it is taught on the battlefield. So actually many people, they skip the whole Mahabharata and they just read, or they want to watch only the part where the war is described. So actually this part where the war was happening, it was very interesting even for mundane people who don't have anything to do with the whole scripture as such, they also want to read who won, who fought like what, and all that stuff, you know. So the setting of Bhagavad Gita on the war field, this is meant to catch the attention of even the most degraded soul, the most less intelligent people. And then it is like a shining jewel in Mahabharata, which is meant to, you know, take their consciousness to the highest level. So in that sense, because it is Mahabharata, it is said is meant, I think Vyasadeva also writes it somewhere that, you know, Mahabharata is, and that's what Srila Prabhupada quotes, that Mahabharata is meant for less intelligent people, but Bhagavad Gita is meant to take their consciousness from the lowest level to the highest level. So from less intelligent to make them supremely intelligent, and so that they can also understand this knowledge that surrendering to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and they can also surrender. So in that context, I was saying this. Terry Prabhu, you want to add something to that?
Well, just like what you said earlier, that, you know, the pure devotees relish reading Bhagavad Gita because
Yeah.
it's Krishna's words.
Right.
So it's not just for the conditioned souls. That's all. I just wanted to find some fault.
Okay.
Good
That's all.
question, Pierre. I like it.
Oh, thank you, Gita Mala.
I had to praise you in some way.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? Terry Prabhu, I think you should give class again tomorrow on this verse.
I know. We need a few classes on this verse.
Actually, I was thinking I have 18.67. Just before the class, I came to know it was 18.66. Somehow I was thinking that Mataji spoke about this. So I think I was not able to do justice with this verse. This is the most important verse.
We can have
So-
2 or 3 classes on this verse.
That's true, actually.
Gita Mala, would you like to give class on this?
I don't think I can really shed too much light on it, except just surrender or try to.
I surrender.
Huh?
You just come to the class and say, I surrender. I can't speak on this verse.
What is that? They call it work in progress. Surrender. Work in progress, surrender.
Okay. All right. If there are no other comments, questions, then we can end the class here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.